everybody. Welcome to episode number 90 of Driftless Knitting. My name is Jennifer. You can find me on Instagram and Ravelry as Driftless Knitter, and you can find the podcast on Ravelry as Driftless Knitting if you search for it under the groups tab. As of right now, that's really just a reflex of me saying that. We don't really have too much going on in the group. Every so often I'll host a knit along or a giveaway, and that'll be posted there, but other than that, there is like a chatter thread, so if you have any questions or comments or anything like that, or want to strike up a conversation, you can do it there. Otherwise, you can comment on the YouTube video. Plenty of people do that as well. Or message me on Ravelry. Not Ravelry, I already said that. Message me on Instagram. Yeah, it is 2 o'clock in the afternoon on, what day is it? March 9th, I think? Yes. It's Monday, March 9th, and I have the day off today. Obviously, I'm coming to you from my home in Cross Plains, Wisconsin, which is just outside of Madison, and I have to work this upcoming weekend, so I get an extra day off this week, so that's fun. I've had a really great day. It's really kind of gloomy today, but it's nice and warm. It's about 50 degrees. And yeah, it feels like a proper spring day, which is great. We're getting a little bit of rain and clouds, but it's warm, so you can kind of feel spring in the air, which is really, really nice. I have had a really great, relaxing day. I spent the morning at our local coffee shop because we had a maintenance guy come in and fix something in our kitchen this morning, and I could have just stayed. It probably didn't take him too long, but I just decided, I don't know, to take a little bit of time and go to the coffee shop and have a quiet, although it wasn't that quiet there, but have a quiet moment, do some reading. I did end up doing a little bit of knitting as well, and have a cup of coffee and a little sweet treat. But yeah, so that was how my morning started. I've done a little bit of chores around the house since then, done a little bit of knitting, ate some lunch, and here we are. I'm able to record a podcast this week, which is great. I'm staying with the 2-week theme, which is great, and it's what I always prefer to do, but life gets in the way, life gets busy. I'm just really happy that I'm able to podcast again so soon since the last episode. So I'm here at home. I got my I forgot to talk about this last time, but my friend Tanya messaged me about it after the last podcast episode, and this is a Frost Beard Studio candle. They are out of Minnesota, and they do like book themed candles most of the time, or it doesn't always necessarily have to go off of a specific book. They'll do like bookstore or old parchment or something like that, like these different scents, which is really fun. And I just so happen to have gotten always like the book themed candles. So this one is called Prairie House, and it is based on like Little House on the Prairie, which you all know is one of my favorite book series, and yeah, kind of obsessed. Speaking of which, I have not yet received my club, the Homespun House. I talked about this in the last episode. The Homespun House, she's doing a yarn and charm club for the entire series of the Little House books. And last month I bought the Little House in the Big Woods. And it hasn't come yet. I think she was dyeing them like last week or so. So I'm guessing in another week, maybe I'll get that in the mail. And then over the weekend, I was really excited to have a few pattern sales on my Ravelry page. I do design a few patterns, and she had just posted the Little House on the Prairie, which is book 2, Yarn and Charm Club, and I was able to use kind of my extra funds from my Ravelry sales to almost pay for the whole thing, which if you guys are, Ravelry, if you sell on Ravelry, you only get like a few bucks for each pattern that you sell. So that was really fun. I don't know, you kind of feel like I don't want to say that sounds so silly. Like you've made it if you make more than $5 a week. on Ravelry. But yeah, there's kind of a, one of my patterns got featured on the Knit Circus newsletter and page and everything. So I sold a few copies of that and was able to treat myself. So thank you to any of you who bought a pattern, if you did. And if you're curious about my patterns, you can go on Ravelry and check those out. I haven't published anything in a little while, but hoping to change that maybe soon. Yeah, this winter was just not as productive pattern-wise as, you know, sometimes it could have been, but that's okay. Sometimes we have to focus on other things in our lives, and certain things get set to the back burner. So, yeah, maybe soon I'll be able to do that again. But, okay, let's see. Was I actually talking about anything? Oh, I was kind of mentioning the clubs. That's really my only acquisition because I haven't bought any other yarn. Very proud of myself. We're almost halfway through March, and those 2 clubs are the only yarn purchase I've made so far in 2020. So, wow. If you know me at all, or if you've watched this podcast for a long time, you know that that is quite remarkable. So I'm patting myself on the back a little bit, and I'm happy I can save a little bit of money. I have such a big yarn stash, so don't feel sorry for me at all because I'm still knitting with great yarn. And I'll show you in a little bit. There are a couple projects I have where I got the yarn to do a sample, so technically I'm knitting with new yarn. I just didn't have to pay for it, so don't feel sorry for me at all. And speaking of those projects, let's jump right into my works in progress. So my first work in progress I'll show you is one I did have started not last week, the last time I podcasted, 2 weeks ago. So I am knitting the Rainbow Trail sweater, and I have it in this really big tote bag I really love. There's plenty of space for this sweater and more. This is from the 31 Company, if you're familiar with that. It's like a, I don't want to say mail order, but pretty much you just get a catalog of these different styles of bags, and you can order, you know, whatever you want. So it's not like they have a shop, or it's not like a handmade maker or anything, but my mom got that for me for Christmas. So it's really great for big projects like sweaters. And also I think it would be really great for like a blanket project or something like that, because I have a lot of space in there, even though I have most of a sweater in there right now. So like I said, this is the Rainbow Trail sweater. I am knitting this for the Knit Circus knit along that we're doing right now. This knit along started on February 14th and it goes until April 14th. So we have about 1 more month. If you are a really fast knitter, and it's a worsted weight sweater, so it really isn't that hard to get this done in a month, but you can order yarn for this, or if you have yarn in your stash and you want to participate, you can join along on the Ravelry page. There is quite a few of us that are knitting it. There's a bunch of staff members, my coworkers that are knitting this right now, and it's really fun to just see all the different color combinations that people are doing. So this was a pattern that was designed with Knit Circus yarn a while ago, a few years ago, and we decided to do like a fun knit along. We're all doing different combinations. So this is my progress so far. You can see I have 1 full sleeve on there, and then I am done with the body. I think last time I was only maybe splitting for sleeves, maybe? I can't remember how far I was in the body, but I don't think I had finished the body yet. So I have 1 full sleeve left to go, and if I have enough knitting time and enough knitting mojo this week, where I'm not really tempted to knit on my other things, because last weekend I only wanted to knit on one other thing, and I was really bad, and I didn't touch this for like 3 or 4 days. But this past week, even though we had some crazy stuff going on, I did get a chance to sit down and get like half the sleeve done in one sitting. And then yesterday and last night, I cranked out almost all of the rest of the sleeve. And then this morning, I just had to finish it. So yeah, so it won't take me too long to finish the second one, which is really nice. And yeah, I just have to have this done by, I can't remember, beginning of April, probably. That would mean like blocking and everything. So yeah, if I can finish it next week and get it blocked, because we are going to be featuring this on Knit Circus's website. So yeah, so my combination here is my gradient. Those color changes are all done with one ball of yarn. I didn't have to change colors or pair colors together or whatever. It was done with this gradient here, which is called Counting Sheep, and the inside might be getting blown out a little bit, but it really is just like a cream in the middle there. So yeah, it goes cream to like a tan, then like a really dusty purple, which I love, and then like 3 darkening colors of blue at the end. So I love this colorway, and I think it looks amazing paired up with the gray that I'm using, which is one of our semi-solids. So you can see, I think those two just look amazing together, and the striping is just perfect. This is called Bedrock. So it's one of our darker grays, and it's got a little bit of tonality to it, like most semi-solids will have if they're hand-dyed. But actually, I really like that. I don't want something that's just like, if I want it, I don't know, if I want a solid that looks like 100% completely solid, I'm gonna go out and buy like commercial dyed yarn. There's something special about hand-dyed yarn, and you want it to be a little bit different, right? That's at least my thought. So I actually really like the tonality of it. And you can't see the tonality too much in the sweater, but a little bit in those gray stripes, you can see, you know, there's a couple stitches that are darker and lighter. I just think it adds a lot more depth to the sweater. So yeah, I'm enjoying this. It is a little bit, the sleeves are a little bit finicky, I will admit, because I tried to get, I think I did a pretty good job, my sleeve stripes to match my body stripes. And of course the body has way more stitches than the sleeve does, so it's not gonna change as fast at all. So what I had to do was wind off the amount, okay, so this part, until I separated for sleeve, this was all my first gradient. And then my second gradient was the rest of the sleeve, but like I didn't have to use about half of it almost, because I had already knit these colors into the shoulder with that first gradient. So when I picked up my stitches for my sleeve, I had to like wind off, let me show you, the first part of the ball, and I'll have to do that again with this one. So I'm gonna save these because this is perfectly good yarn, and this is like, I don't know, like 90 yards maybe of yarn, and I'll have the same amount here. So I don't know, I'm thinking maybe a hat or something with this, and then you coming from here and going back, like, so it's like a double gradient, because it's the same colorway, so it's, you know, gonna like change the same way. So I think that might be fun. I just don't want to waste all this yarn. So yeah, I wound off about half the ball, and then had to knit like one stripe, this stripe right here, I think, right? Or was this my first stripe I did in the purple? I actually think I had to do one stripe in the purple first. No, maybe not. No, I think this one below it was the first stripe I did in the sleeve. And in the body, you can see that stripe changed halfway through from purple to blue. So I kind of had to get as close as I could to that changing color. And I do have a little bit of purple here, but then it is mostly blue, but I figured that's totally fine. So yeah, you have to kind of like wind off. It's all a guessing game about like how much yarn you'll need. So yeah, I did my best. I think I did okay. And then I did 4 stripes of that lighter blue. And then of course you have to cut it again because you're not through that whole color. So I needed to get to a little bit darker blue. So I cut that, wound off until I got to the darker blue, added that in, did 3 or 4 stripes of that, and then had to cut that and then go to my next blue because I wanted, as you can see there, I wanted all my stripes to match when they're changing. So I did use up a lot more of that darker blue because my sleeves are longer than the body. I have more sleeve stripes than the body, which makes sense because your arms are longer than your torso. So at first I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm running out of stripes and I have to have the same exact number of stripes in my sleeves as my body. And then like, no, I don't. Like, why does that have to, yeah. So I don't know why I was thinking that. And then of course I kind of like measured my arm and I'm like, oh, like, of course it needs to be longer than the torso of my sweater. So yeah, so I have just more of that darker blue in here, but I do like how the rest of the sleeves match up. So I'll do the same for this one, even though it is a bit of a pain. The pattern originally, like I looked at the pictures of the sweater that the designer originally knit, and she doesn't do all of that. So she lines up where the stripes start. So like, you know, you have your first couple of colors in the shoulders, you split for sleeves, and she did line up the stripes like starting off where she left off for the shoulders, but she didn't like cut colors out and get the whole gradient into the arms. She just kind of let the colors change. So if you want to do that, you totally can. You don't have to line up stripes, but I did kind of want to have those match. So, and I will, like I said, I will use the yarn for something else. Haven't decided yet, but I'm pretty sure it would be really, I love those colors, the cream and the tan and that dusty purple. So I think that would be a really pretty hat. And I never talk about my needles. I realized that after the last episode. I was watching I forget who I was watching, another podcast, probably Kay of the Crazy Sock Lady podcast. And she's so good about talking about her needles all the time. And I suddenly realized I never talk about what needles I use. So I'm knitting that sweater on my interchangeables, which are a bit curly right now, but they are Addy. And it is the clicks. So they do, you push and you turn to click them into place. And yeah, these are the long lace set. So they have the sharper tip, but the full length of the needle. And I really like these needles. I use them for pretty much everything, unless, I don't know, unless there's a weird circumstance that I'm already using a pair of needles for an active project and then I go and get a different set, or if I need like a 16-inch, which these do not work with a 16-inch. So then I have to go and grab a different set, but yeah. Or if it's smaller than a 4, because that set only goes 4 to, I think I have 4 to 15 US sizes. So yeah, really love those, and I'm plugging away on that sweater. So if I don't get distracted, hopefully I get that done maybe this week. So my next project, I hinted at last week. This is in one of my Resilient Knitter bags. I love these bags. They are all repurposed fabric. And you can see there's her tag there. And this is, the maker is Elizabeth, and she is out of Eau Claire, Wisconsin, I want to say. So fairly local, just maybe an hour or so away. And I love how sturdy these bags are. I love that they're recycled fabric. But I like the size too. It's just, there's enough room for, you know, a medium-sized project in here. And I love that she has this thick canvas on the inside. So they're really, really sturdy. And how cute is that floral fabric? So yeah, and I think she donates a certain amount of proceeds to the food bank or something. can't remember, but there's a charity that she donates part of her proceeds to, which is really cool. So you kind of feel like you're doing something good when you're ordering from her. And we do carry some of those bags at Knit Circus. I think we have 4 of them maybe, that would be listed online as well as in the shop. So they're not, I don't think we have any floral fabrics left, but there's a lot of like plaid, from like old plaid shirts and stuff, which I also really love. I have one of those upstairs, but I thought this was a lot more like springy. So I used that one. And speaking of spring, I showed you guys last time this cake of yarn that I was going to be using for a pair of socks. And this is kind of a sneak peek of a new colorway, a new speckle that we're gonna have at Knit Circus. This is on our Greatest of Ease base, which is an 80/20 merino nylon. It's our go-to sock base. And I am knitting a pair of my Birds and Buds socks, which I designed last April already. I think it was April or May, a year ago. And I never looked back. I never stopped knitting them. This is like my 6th pair. I love them. So this is a really fun speckle. It's got some really subtle speckles to it in that purple and orange and yellow. I am not sure what this colorway is going to be called. It might be called Busy Bee, maybe. Don't quote me on that. But yeah, you can kind of see how they come out there. And I did a Fish Lips Kiss heel like I always do. It's my favorite heel. It fits me the best. And it's so easy once you've done it once or twice. You don't even have to look at the pattern. It's so simple. Don't be discouraged by the huge 30-page pattern that you end up buying when you buy that pattern, because there's a lot of words in that pattern. And I'm not saying you don't need all the words, but it really complicates things in your mind when you see how much there is to read through. So I would say she gives instructions about how to make this like foot template, and that's about half the pattern. So skip through all of that. She also then describes everything that she's going to be talking about in the pattern. I feel like elaborates on it before you get to the actual instructions. The actual instructions are not that bad. It's only like, I don't know, a page. And then she has some great picture references of the way that she does short rows. You don't turn, I mean, you do turn, but you don't slip, what is that called? Wrap and turn. I don't even know what it's called anymore because I never do it, because this way is so much better. You don't do wrap and turns. You don't, I can't remember. You don't do anything like you would for Japanese short rows or German short rows, though it's been so long since I've done German short rows too. But anyway, you do this cool thing called a twin stitch, and it gives you this, it almost looks like a seam right there, but it's not, and you can't feel it on the inside. It's just kind of this very seamless, there's no holes, there's no anything, there's no gaps that you have to knit together. It's, yeah, I love it. So highly recommend. If you knit any of my sock patterns, you'll notice that I refer you to the Fish Lips Kiss heel, because I cannot reprint the instructions in my pattern, but it's one that I recommend for a lot of people. If you have a super, super high arch, or not high arch, large instep, then you might want to reconsider, because although you can, I have a friend who knits a slight gusset to give herself a little bit more space, and then she does the Fish Lips Kiss heel. So you can make it work, but I think I have a pretty average instep. So this fits me really well and snug, and it doesn't slip off my foot, which I love. Some people who want a little bit more space for their instep might want to find a different one, but I say give it a try. Give it a try. So yep, knitting my socks toe up. You can see that really pretty texture on there. You can't see it too much when it's straight on like that, but because these are so light, but if you see it from the side, it's got this really cool alternating texture, and it's just enough to keep you interested. It's an easy stitch to do. It's really addictive, and like I said, this is about my 6th pair, I think, that I've done, so I obviously love them. But yeah, that's the Birds and Buds, and we'll be featuring this pattern and this yarn at Knit Circus probably April or May, as soon as I get the socks done, which I'm trying to work on that sweater for work and this for work. And yeah, sometimes my knitting time is not as much as I want it to be. I think that's a common theme with all of us, but yeah, I would love every day to be like today, where I can get a good substantial amount of work done on my knitting projects. And then, like I said, I was getting distracted last weekend because I really, really, really wanted to get started on something I had percolating in my brain. This is in my Daisy Girl & Company bag. This is one of her peekaboo, is it called peekaboo bags? I think, and you can see, ooh, look at that prettiness. I got this at Vogue Knitting Live in Minneapolis a year and a half ago. Yeah, a year and a half ago. I love the farm motif on there. So I have in this beautiful bag some beautiful hand-dyed yarn from Molly of a Homespun House. Wow, there's a theme. I actually, this is my first time. Okay, I have plenty of her yarn in my stash. This is my first time actually, oh, I take that back. I knit my sister a pair of socks out of the 2018 Christmas at Hogwarts club yarn and loved knitting with it. But yeah, so this isn't my first time knitting with her yarn. I thought maybe it was, but I have a lot in my stash. I just, of course, with any yarn in your stash, you don't get around to knitting with it right away. So I'm an avid collector, an avid admirer, but I don't always get to knit with it right away. So really happy to be able to have caked this up. This is Xenophilius Explains the Deathly Hallows. That's the name of the colorway. It's a Harry Potter reference. And it's on her 80/20 sock base, which is a 2-ply bouncy sock yarn. And I love it. My favorite base has to be a 2-ply 80/20 sock yarn. I don't know why, but there's something about, it's funny because my boss is the exact opposite. She does not like the look of a 2-ply yarn. And I was unpacking a trunk show, I think. And I was like, oh, look at this. And she's like, I do not want my yarn to look ropey. And I was like, it doesn't look ropey. It's plump and happy. And she's just like, that's, so it's funny how like you can have two different opinions about something. Yeah, so I love the look of it. I know not everybody does. But yeah, so that's Xenophilius Explains the Deathly Hallows. And then I'm pairing it with Juniper, which this isn't really giving you, I mean, that's kind of an okay representation. Yeah, it's not quite as like blue, like cool blue as that, but it works. So yeah, I thought these went great together. I bought them when Molly did her first trunk show at Knit Circus with us. And yeah, kind of was comparing the two together and thought they looked beautiful. As most of you, if you watch her podcast and you follow her on Instagram, you probably know that she is moving back to Germany. So we were lucky enough to have her as a local hand dyer here in the Madison area for the last like 3 years, 2 years or something like that. She moved from Germany back home to spend some time with her family, but then now they're ready to go back. So I was very sad when I heard that, because we were trying to set up another trunk show, and you know, it's always, I've gotten to know her, I've seen her at a few different shows and at our shop and stuff, and yeah, so it's kind of sad, but that's okay. It's okay. She's got to do what's best for her family, and I don't blame her for wanting to go back to the place she fell in love with. I also have felt that about different places that I've lived, a deep, deep connection, and I completely understand missing like crazy a place, especially if it's that far away and you can't go and visit. I feel that way about where I moved from in Minnesota. You guys have heard me talk on and on and on about Winona, Minnesota, which is where I used to live, where I went to school, and kind of where all of this fiber love got started. And if I could move back, I would. I don't think we will, because our family is closer here, and that's the main draw to this area. So, you know, while you miss it and you kind of have that wish of going back, like, we probably won't do that. But I understand if you had the chance, you should. So, yep, don't blame her and her family in the least. But I will miss bumping into her and seeing her at different fiber events and shows. So I'm not really sure I'm going to show you the entire or even most of this project. It's still sort of coming into being, if you know what I mean. But I will kind of give you an idea of how the two colors look together. I will tell you this is a shawl, and that's about it. So this is kind of how I'm doing different textures and stuff, but I'm interspersing that beautiful green in with the speckle, so you can kind of see how those two look together. And I'm having a lot of fun. I haven't worked on this since last weekend because I told myself I had to knit that sweater. That was my main goal, was to make like significant progress on that. And so I'm really glad I knit that sleeve this week. But I don't know, maybe if I did get the sleeve done. I did work on my sock today. I finished the heel. Maybe this afternoon I'll let myself knit on this a little bit. So this is like my fun knitting. This is my extra knitting, my personal knitting, whereas everything else seems to be work knitting right now. But not saying I'm not enjoying it, but you know, it's fun to get to knit something different once in a while. So yeah, that's the little baby project. Not the baby project. It's not for a baby. It's for a big person, but it's in its infancy right now. So we'll see how oh my God, I'm so goofy. We'll see how it turns out. Like I said, I'm really excited. It really took a lot for me to put that down earlier this week and move on to some other things, but yeah, we'll see how it turns out. I think I said in an Instagram post that, like, at this point, I'm not counting on this being like the next bestseller on Ravelry or something. It's just something that I had this idea for. I knew I wanted to knit it in this yarn. I started it, it's starting to work up, I'm loving the way it looks, and it's really exciting to see something, you know, that you are imagining in your brain come out into a 3D object, and to feel that excitement again. It's really fun. It's really fun. This isn't the first thing I've knit since last fall that I've like quote unquote designed. I did do that baby blanket for my friend, which I gave to her yesterday. I'm so excited I got to meet my college roommate's baby girl. All three of us got together because there were three of us girls that lived together I lived with Amber for 3 years Amber and Elizabeth for 3 years, and then Elizabeth and I lived together again for 1 more year after that. I was out of school already, but still living in Winona, and she was doing a 5th year, and then Amber had moved home. So yeah, so we had a long-standing, friendship, and they were the best roommates ever, and I love them so much, and we still keep in touch a lot and get together a lot. So so we got to see them yesterday, meet the new baby. We took a walk because it was almost, I think it was 60 degrees, more than 60 degrees. It was amazing. The little kids we took the 2 older, so they each have 2 kids now, and we took the 2 older ones on a walk, and Elizabeth's little girl is about 2 years older than Amber's oldest. He's 2. He's going to be 2. Or is he already 2? He's already 2. He'll be 3 this fall. And Elizabeth's oldest is going to be 4 in June. So they're about a year or so apart. And she taught him how to jump in all the puddles from the melting snow. There's a lot of water on the ground because it was so warm and all the snow was melting. So the sidewalks and the road were just, really wet and covered in puddles, and they were both jumping, and he got soaking wet. He loved jumping in the puddles. It was so funny. He just kept running back. Like, we'd be like, okay, let's go. And we'd start walking, and then he'd like kind of walk, and then he'd just turn around and run back to the puddle and just like jump. Oh my God, it was so funny. He's really cute. So that was a lot of fun. But I got to gift my blanket to them, and they really liked it. So that was really fun. And so I did kind of design that one. Haven't written it up yet. I kind of want to, maybe knit it again to just get some kinks out if I do decide to publish it. But, and it's not like I didn't enjoy knitting that, but it wasn't the same thing as this. This was like one of those things that like you wake up at night, you're like, I need to knit that. So it's just really exciting. But anyway, I have no acquisitions. I have no finished objects. That has been my knitting life for the past 2 weeks. So I've gotten a good bit done, I think. I'm not going to feel too bad about what I've accomplished. Hoping, like I said, to get more done in the next couple of weeks. I'm not sure how my weekends look. I might not be able to podcast for another 3 maybe because of just some things going on, but we shall see. And I'm just really glad that I'm back, and it's episode 90. How cool is that? So I want to thank you all for coming and spending some time with me. For my long-term viewers, for sticking in there and hanging out. I can't believe, let's see, this upcoming year, is it going to be 4 years or 3? Is it? I can't remember. I think it might be 4 years since I started podcasting. Wow, that is crazy. I didn't really mark my 3 year. Maybe I mentioned it, but I started podcasting in September of 2016, I think. So September of 2020 is going to be 4 years. Craziness. So if you've been with me since the beginning, holy crap, thank you. And if you are a new viewer or just kind of getting into it, I appreciate you as well. Thank you for giving me a chance, for coming back, for subscribing if you are subscribed. I'm over 600 now, which is really exciting. And hopefully I can just keep on podcasting, keep on sharing what I'm doing. It's really fun to have a community to talk to who really shares in your passion. So thank you all very much, and I hope to talk to you very soon. Until then, happy knitting, do things that make your heart happy, and I will be doing the same. Bye.